Hi everyone, we are here at the Chula Vista office. It's a little condo, as you can see. We didn't do it at the hotel in the convention center. The Wi-Fi wasn't as great. Tomorrow, we will be checking into the hotel. And so then we will be able to do the live broadcast at the hotel. Now, where are we? We are at the AILA San Diego Conference. This is the annual conference for American Immigration Lawyer Associations. We were there all day today. We learned a lot of really important information that we want to share. Normally, we do our lives on Thursdays, but since it's the annual AILA conference, we're going to do it today, Wednesday, and Thursday, and Friday, and Saturday at various times. And so we want to be able to share the newest information immediately. As always, like all of our lives, we take questions. So if you have any questions that you want to ask, feel free to ask about immigration. And what is AILA? I just want to share a little bit about that. It is the largest association for immigration lawyers. There's, I think, over 50,000 immigration attorneys, professors, nonprofits, think tanks, agencies that all come together to talk about removal, to talk about family law, to talk about immigration business track, to talk about what's happening at the border. We talk about policy, we talk about ethics, we talk about just how the practice of immigration can be made better. It's a 4-day annual conference, and it happens throughout the whole country year round, but this is the annual one. This is the largest one, and this year it's in San Diego. So our entire team is here attending sessions, learning, getting CLE credits, and when we learn about all these newest developments, we want to share it immediately. So, and you know what's cool? Today when we're here, we actually met some of our YouTube fans that also came to the conference too, because they're in this space as well. They have a lot of their own cases that we're brainstorming on, and we were able to meet them, we were able to talk to them. And so we're making a vlog of our daily adventures and stories as well. So you can see that on our YouTube channel. I know we have TikTok fans here, but we post the consolidation of our vlogs on our YouTube. Now, one of the things that I learned today is that during the naturalization interview, if you are on a payment plan with the IRS, a lot of these cases are getting denied. In the past, that wasn't the case. In the past, a lot of times they just continue the processing, wait for you to finish paying for all the things that you owe, and then approve it. Having a payment plan with the IRS doesn't mean you are a bad person, doesn't mean you are a not citizen material. And so in the past, even though our firm has always recommended people just to pay off everything you owe to the IRS and then naturalize, in the past, we've inadvertently seen some people who didn't even know they have they owe back taxes by a certain amount, because sometimes you don't know until the next year. You suddenly get a letter in the envelope, in the mail, and suddenly, oh, you owe $83. Oh, you owe $830 because of the interest that was due on the state that you didn't pay for, right? So all of these reasons, in the past, people owe a certain amount to the IRS. Well, does that mean you don't naturalize? You already paid the hundreds of dollars to this USCIS interview. You already went to the interview. In the past, they would just continue it, give you time to pay it off, do a request for evidence, show you paid it off, and you'll naturalize. At this conference, we talked to a lot of different practitioners, and it turns out a lot of people have been just directly getting denied. That's part of the good moral character package that came out last year. They're not just looking at you not having a criminal record. We're also saying not having a criminal record is not good enough. Now, if you're on parole, if you owe back taxes, if you've been out of the country, if you have health problems, all of these things are in part of that good moral character analysis to determine whether or not you deserve to be a citizen. So that's one of the things that's like, oh, that's shocking, right? I didn't realize it's that severe. In the past, when we do naturalization cases, if you have a criminal record and you're on probation and your probation, your sentence is not over yet, we don't file. That's understandable, right? You're on probation. And now, even after probation ends, when you file, it's not as clear cut as whether or not you're going to qualify to be a citizen because of this criminal record. You still have to go out of your way to really prove you deserve this citizenship. And I was talking with another attorney talking about this case, and this person has a manslaughter. It's really bad back in the 80s. But since then, his life completely reformed. He works for the government. He has security clearances. He is an upright citizen. He married with children, has all of these things, and he was able to naturalize. But again, this was in the 80s, 90s. Now it's a completely different story, right? Now they don't only just look at the criminal record, they also look at everything else, and there's a lot of things to be deemed. Most important one that we see affecting a lot of people is green card holders who got the green card, but they constantly leave the country, right? Even though they meet the physical presence test, but if their English is not good enough, they constantly leave the country. If they don't really pay a lot of taxes, they don't owe taxes, but they owe a lot of taxes. Those all become things that the government thinks, well, you might not be citizenship material. One of the things that we're seeing in removal defense, again, I'm not a removal defense attorney, but we're seeing a lot of removal bonds getting approved near Chula Vista. And so anywhere in Chula Vista here, we're seeing a lot of the bonds get approved. But now I know most people cannot choose which immigration court is processing their case. It just gets sent there. I know a lot of people don't get to choose which detention center they go to, but a lot of times, whatever case is, if you have the right judge and you have the right appearance attorney that's talking to the judge, potentially you can get the bond. Now, just getting the bond out is already a huge win in this administration. Being able to be let out, being able to be reunited with family, being able to self-deport, that is already a huge win because so many of these removal cases are mandatory bonds or mandatory detentions. They don't even allow for bond. They don't even allow you pay for it, even if you want to. Detention is at like 50,000 individuals across the country, and it reached 70,000 at some point. I think we've seen over 50 people die in detention centers. It's like crazy, but knowing that there's pockets of immigration judges that have been granting bonds, that is like the light at the end of the tunnel. And we were able to meet several attorneys that do a lot of these detention work. And I'm working with the American Bar Association. We're planning an event where I'm going to train a lot of law students, and we're going to go to detention center and help see who is wrongfully detained and who can possibly get out. And we can prepare the case so that the American Bar Association, through their nonprofit, will be able to fight for them, right? So there's a lot of things happening at AILA, and that's one of the best things coming to these AILA conferences is not just learning new Supreme Court rulings. Of course, that is going to happen on this trip. It's not just learning like new experiences from attorneys and what AILA is doing nationally, but it's also working with different nonprofits, different law offices, seeing what they're seeing and potentially working together, right? So nonprofits, a lot of nonprofits don't have funding anymore, right? The moment Trump went to office, a lot of the funding to nonprofits got cut. And when nonprofits lose their funding, they cannot represent a lot of difficult cases anymore, right? Especially long cases anymore, because their funding is tied to how many cases they have. And so they let go a lot of the attorneys. So a lot of the staff is still there, but they don't have the attorneys. And without the attorneys, they can't do a lot of complex cases. And so now nonprofits need to partner with a lot of nonprofit or pro bono attorneys to be able to do the legal part. But the law firms, when they work on a case, they can't, for a pro bono case, they can't do a U visa for like 10 years or longer, right? So they can only jump in to do one sliver of a case, and then the nonprofits take over for the rest, right? So there's all these new partnerships that are happening. A lot of times at the AILA conference, a lot of times through these networking events to figure out how the nonprofits can survive, can just live through the administration, and how different law firms are adapting as well, right? And so it's funding issue, it's processing issue, but people want to help the clients who are in need. Okay, I'm seeing questions. I'm here to answer.
Yeah, why does the replacement of naturalization take so long? They took the money instantly, though.
Yeah, I agree. Replacing naturalization certificate is a long and arduous process. Why? I can't explain it to you other than bureaucracy, right? It's just USCIS being slow. Now, you might say, well, it is one of the most important documents on planet Earth in the sense of it proves your citizenship. It's one of the only agencies that have access to this information. Social Security, DMV, any other government agencies, they can't have access to who is a citizen or not. The only thing that can prove that is your naturalization certificate. And if you look at it very closely, it says you cannot photocopy it. So government entities cannot keep a copy of it either. And so it is like money, it is very highly protected. It is more secure and guarded compared to like shares of a company, right? If you own it, you put in your safety deposit, you just own shares of a company. This proves your citizenship and individual citizenship. And with that, you can get a passport. And with a passport, you can travel all over the world. So United States being arguably one of the most important countries in the world, the citizens having that, being able to vote, being able to get passports, it takes a couple months for them to process issue. Now, that excuse might have worked a decade ago. In this digital age, come on, right? You take the money, you print it out on a piece of paper. You could buy that piece of paper at like 99-cent store, right? It's not a fancy paperwork, but to their defense, it is a very selective and only a small group of people within the USCIS department have access that can print it.
How long do you think it takes?
We have seen it take over 9 months.
Wow.
Yeah, we have seen it take that long. Now, my question is, why do you need it?
Because yeah, they said, so they got it through military and their commander lost it.
Oh, okay. The couple, workarounds. If you can go to USCIS field office, InfoPass, you might be able to get a proof of it, your citizenship. You might be able to go to the federal building and do an expedited passport, and you can get that within 2 days or 3, at least at the federal building in Los Angeles. So there's other ways to try to get proof of your citizenship. But if you have to get your naturalization certificate, it takes a long time. Social Security often needs your naturalization number, certificate number, which you absolutely cannot get unless you have the certificate. But USCIS can see it. So if you do an InfoPass, you can get the number and give it to Social Security, right? So there's different ways to go ahead. And if they're part of the military can contact USCIS and they could get it a little bit faster compared to an individual applying for it. So,
how do I petition my parents if they live in Canada?
The first step is to file I-130 to prove your biological relationship with your parent. It takes, maybe a year and a half to maybe process the case, assuming you're a U.S. citizen. And once that gets approved, if they're in Canada, then you go through the National Visa Center, you upload out all documents, you fill out DS-260, you prove your sponsorship, you're financially able. Once that gets approved, then they schedule an interview with the consulate in Canada. They interview, maybe 3 months, it gets approved. They get the visa, they come to the US, then the green card gets mailed to them in mail and it takes about a month or 2 months. So that's the entire process to try to get somebody to come over. It's 3 separate steps: the I-130 with USCIS, the NVC, National Visa Center, and then the consulate for their interview.
It took my brother like 3 or 4 years to petition his wife to finally get her US citizen. So they had...
To green card, right? It took separate, yeah. So yes, it is 2, 3, 4 years. I think that is a safe estimate for this process.
But why? And why does it cost so much?
Why does it take so long? Again, USCIS is completely backed up. It just takes over a year to process all these I-130s. And for your reference, U.S. citizen petitioning parents, U.S. citizen petition wife, spouse, that's already the fastest track. We've seen some other I-130 petitions that took over 15 years, still not adjudicated. They accept the money, but it's just parked, right? So in comparison to everything else, this is lightning speed. Now, after that gets approved, National Visa Center, that's a whole different process, because I-130 just proves your relationship, whether to your spouse or to your parents. And then National Visa Center does a clearance on the other person's background. And then the consulates get the last say to interview them in person. Why is there 3 different agencies? Well, to give you a bad news, there's actually 4. The hidden secret agency kind of like the Hunter exam. After you get the visa, you fly in, the customs actually does one last secret check. And once all gets approved, then the card gets issued and mailed, which is done by contractors. Now, why are there 4 or 5 different agencies doing this? From the explanation that I've received from USCIS and different consulates, is that this is the best way to combat terrorism, fraud, gangs, evildoers, no good doers. Why? Because it's easy to bribe one officer. If one officer can just make all the decision, stamp approval, get the green card, or citizenship for that matter, or a fake passport for that matter, right? And a lot of countries around the world and the United States have lived through those different eras. If bribery can happen, corruption can happen, then national security is a threat. But how do you bypass years of processing with I-130, and then National Visa Center, and then the consulate, and then customs, right? It becomes infinitely more difficult, and therefore only real, good people can actually get in. So that's a national security explanation. I don't know if you buy it, but there's the United States definitely has a reputation problem around the world, and there are a lot of enemies. So kind of makes sense to me.
And why does it cost a lot of money to actually bring someone?
Why does it cost a lot of money? I think maybe the best explanation is that U.S. personnel is expensive, right? USCIS, I don't know, 50,000 employees. They work here. They work across the countries. They have to adjudicate these. Now, an I-130 application that takes hundreds of dollars. It takes them 8-10 minutes to process a case, right? That doesn't seem to match up with their pay. But then government funding. USCIS is one of the federal agencies that's almost entirely self-funded. With that being said, all of the funding is going to that self-funding. So they're barely breaking even. Now, if you say USCIS has a lot of waste, maybe that's why things are expensive, or USCIS is just really expensive, or they have to do a lot of other things. I could tell you USCIS, the mandate that USCIS officers have to do, they're barely doing 40% of what they're supposed to do. Maybe they're only doing 30% of what they're supposed to do. So if they really did everything that they're supposed to do, the cost really should triple, if you think about it that way. So maybe everybody's already getting a discount when you're paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars for them to do generally, 5-10 minutes of stuff. There's a lot of reasons why things are so expensive, right? But USCIS is already a self-funding agency. Now, National Visa, when you pay for the I-130, that covers USCIS, but National Visa Center, you're not really paying into that, but they're being funded by the government. The consulate is constantly negative, even though they collect so much visa fees. Sending U.S. personnel abroad, training them for years, send them abroad. They pay for all the housing, they pay for all the consulates, they pay for all the IT, they pay for all the staff overseas, they pay for the building that they lease from another country. All that is really, really expensive. So I don't know. I don't know why things are so expensive. But in the world of, moving from one country's citizenship, nationality to another, can you really put a price on that, I guess, right? You're essentially becoming another country's commonwealth in which you will be able to eventually be able to vote and eventually be able to have children and live there, right? So it's hard.
What's the average time for I-130, U.S. citizen spouse with consular processing afterward?
Right now, we're telling almost all our clients about 2 years. So I-130, NVC, consulate, the whole thing, give yourself 2 years. It could be a little bit slower. It might be a little bit faster. It depends on a lot of factors outside of everybody's control. But you should have at least that preparation, right? And yeah, it is a long time.
Yeah, so the annoying thing, right? So this woman, she was a teacher in the Philippines, now she's a teacher in the US, right? Not a criminal, not anything like that. Dad was an embassy worker, but it almost felt like they're getting extorted because it's just money at every different step, and just they're just trying to go through the legal process.
Right. Yeah. And in and I mean, I could tell you that what you've experiencing right now is just a small sliver of what a lot of other countries have to even experience as well. Other people getting a tourist visa, they have to pay a $10,000 bond. Once you get the green card, you have to file for renewal to get new green cards unless you become a citizen. When you pay for citizen, you have to pay for the citizenship application. If you want to leave the country, you have to pay for a re-entry permit. You know, there's a lot more things that's coming down the line as well. You get your conditional green card, it's a 2-year green card, and then you have to pay to renew it to get the 10-year green card, right? It's like an endless subscription fee to the US government. And guess what? By finally getting a green card, now you have to owe taxes worldwide, right? All the things that you've earned in Philippines, in other places around the world, well, now you have to pay taxes on that as well. So with all of that in mind, do you still want the green card? Do you still want to be a citizen of the United States? And the answer is a resounding yes to so many people around the world, right? They're still applying that. The United States USCIS service is over 11 million cases backlogged. So they're trying to put almost as many barriers for people to come in, but people are still applying and they still are processing. So I think maybe for you've already paid so much in the past year, 2 years. You're going through the process. I can assure you that in the next 5, 10 years, the fees are going to go up and up and up and up. So by paying early now, you're saving costs later on. I've seen filing fees double and triple just in the past, 10 years. So if you're already going through the process and you believe the United States will be better down the line for you and for your family, you're saving money by doing it now, if eventually you're going to come in, right? So it's something to think about.
Is it really that hard to gain an O1B visa for an unknown actor?
O1B, one of the requirements is you're distinguished. So prove that you're distinguished while being unknown, right? Part of being distinguished is almost as if you're supposed to be known. But we've won EB1A cases for somebody who's completely unknown also, right? To directly get a green card, skip the O1 process just to get the green card. Because there's many ways to be distinguished. You could be anonymous and still very distinguished, right? Distinguished doesn't, and extraordinary doesn't mean everybody needs to know you. That's just one sort of way to prove you are extraordinary and you are distinguished. Maybe you publish a lot of books under your pen name. Nobody knows your true identity, but you are a super famous author, right? So, Sir Conan Arthur Doyle, right? For example, there's so many authors that have become immensely famous, but they became famous with their pen name, right? Nobody knows them. Who invented Bitcoin, right? But if they can prove it's linked to them and then they have the patents, the US government knows, they will grant them the EB1A green card, but they are unknown, right? So, and for a lot of our clients, when they're applying for O1 or EB1A, they don't want anybody to know that they're immigrating, right? They're coming from their home country. They are the best in their field. They don't want letter recs from their peers knowing they are escaping the country. So you don't have to get letter recs. You don't have to be known, but you need to still prove you're distinguished. So there's a lot of ways to go about doing that. If you look at the requirements, USCIS with all its wisdom and Congress with all its wisdom provided a lot of factors, including a comparable evidence factor where, all right, you don't have the ones that we want. You don't have high salary. You don't have media publications. You don't have authorships. You don't have memberships. You don't have original contribution. Show me something that's comparable to that, right? And so, but the law is there. Prove yourself distinguished. If you're unknown, to do something else, right? Show that you invented something that completely changed the world of art, music, business, right? So.
Okay, guys, be real. Do we have no audio? Because it sounds like we have audio to me. So the person who said no audio, either you trolled me so well, or but I think we have audio. Just be so for real.
Uh-huh.
Does filing I-130 and 45 give you temporary status while the case is pending?
Say that again?
Does I-130 and 45 give you temporary status while the case is pending?
Authorized stay, which means you're not accruing unlawful presence, which means if the case is denied, you're not deportable. You don't have to file a waiver to waive unlawful presence. You're not a visa overstay in the sense of accruing unlawful presence. However, after the case is denied, and if your I-94 already expired, you cannot just file another 45 unless you're married to a U.S. citizen, unless you have an immediate relative, and that's a different story, right? So, for most people who are in lawful status when they enter the country and then they file the I-130 45, you're okay, and hopefully your case gets approved and you get a green card. But if it doesn't and you have to leave the country, you have a second bite at the apple.
So I had a wrongful deportation order. So the lawyer suggested to do AOS and explain in the interview why it is wrongful. Basically, someone with the same name and last name.
Okay.
Or should I do a motion to reopen first and then the AOS?
My guess, we don't do a lot of removal defense at our firm, but my guess is that when you file the adjustment of status, they will see the prior removal order. They will probably have the admin close the AOS case and send it to immigration court. And then at immigration court, you will then reopen the prior case to dismiss it and then have the immigration judge either pass the case back to USCIS or just directly adjust the status in the immigration court. That's from what I've heard from my colleagues. That's what I've seen. We've done some success stories on it, but I don't practice this on a daily basis.
How long does it take for an I-601A, or sorry, just an I-601 to be processed?
I think we're seeing about 3 years, right? It fluctuated between 2 to 4. So I think anywhere within that timeline.
Oh, wow. So it sounds like to get his brother's wife from the Philippines, it cost $10,000. So is that is that an insane number, or does that sound about right? Does that sound like extortion?
10,000 in government fees sounds like a lot. 10,000 if you're talking about government fees and attorney fees, and it's like 3-year process, and they have a complicated case, doesn't sound crazy, right? So it depends on the situation. Government filing fees just for I-130, NVC, it really should be like 2,000, So that's just the cost of the government. I-130 is really not expensive. NVC consulate fees are really not expensive. But if there was a waiver involved, if there's, a lot of preparation, if there's bona fide issues, if there's joint sponsors, if there's like a lot of other complexities, then the private attorney cost might be that much. Okay, we'll take a few more questions and we'll close it out because tomorrow at 7:30, I'm gonna role play a USCIS officer at the AILA conference to be able to talk to practicing attorneys on how to do adjustment of status, right? So myself and a couple colleagues, one's gonna be an attorney, one's gonna be a client, and I'm gonna be a USCIS officer, and we're gonna go through adjustment of status, especially nowadays with the crazy new May 21st, 22nd memo talking about the discretion USCIS has to deny adjustment of status cases, right? So there's a lot of things that we're gonna go over. I need to prep for it. I've been up since 5. I went to Mexico this morning to try to pick up clients to bring them in. It was successful. We made a vlog about it, but I'll take a few more questions.
Can my wife be present in the US while the 601 is pending?
Most people actually file the 601A while they are in the US. And once it gets approved, then they go back to the home country to get the visa to come back in. Now, if you have a difficult issue that needs a 601 waiver, what we've seen in the past 2-3 years, a lot of times the client is already in the US, and when you file the adjustment status, the 485, you can file the 601 simultaneously, and a good officer can adjudicate both and approve it on the spot or within a few weeks or months. We've definitely done that. It definitely worked. You don't have to wait the long 3-4 years for 601 processing if the officer could just directly adjudicate it. So that's what we hope. But nowadays, with the discretion, they might end up denying the 45 and sending the 601 to the USCIS unit to process 601, and then your spouse have to leave the country, and then once go to the consulate to come back in. We haven't seen that happen yet. I'm telling you, in the past couple years, we have filed 45 and 601 together and get it both approved simultaneously.
What sort of petition needs to be filed in federal court if I need to vacate my sentence due to ineffective assistance of a counsel not advising about immigration consequences of a plea deal?
Wow. That is really beyond what I am knowledgeable about for removal defense. It sounds like you might want to file in federal court regarding APA, or habeas corpus. Those are the two things that come off the top of my mind, but I really don't practice in this area. So I'll take one more question.
Okay. Can someone who I-130 and 765 approved and 485 was admin closed get an interview or a green card?
Say it again?
Their I-130 and 765 was approved, and their 485 was admin closed. Can they get an interview or a green card?
I-130 approved, 765 approved, so a work permit is approved. Your 485 was admin closed. You reopen it, and if everything goes well, you should be able to get your green card. Most of the time we see admin closure from USCIS because they're transferring it to the court, which means now your next battle is at the court to win it or get it transferred back and reopen it with USCIS and get approved. So you're stuck in that limbo between USCIS and the court. But most of the time, that's what happens. And you could definitely still get your green card, but you just have to fight through that last step, right? And USCIS usually closes it because there's something that's beyond their jurisdiction. They're like, we can't decide this. It's up to the court or some other agency. So we've definitely seen it done. It's definitely possible. Keep at it. At least your I-130 is already approved. Okay? Thank you guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care.